Good morning to you, my friends, wherever you may be in the world today. Alan Clements here from Kula, Maui, Hawaii, planet Earth. Today, July 1st, 2021, Thursday. Today, a few announcements. Today is the final spontaneous live stream, my morning series, as I see it. Tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, wherever you may be in the world, you are openly, wholeheartedly invited to participate in a gifted freely global virtual gathering here from the Sacred Temple in the middle of the Pacific. A chance to commune twice a day from 10 a.m. to 12 noon here Hawaii time, and again from 1 till 3 p.m. in the afternoon, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. They'll be successive, developmental, evolutional. Yes, they'll be posted somewhat permanently here on my Facebook page. They're also on SoundCloud. They're also on YouTube, Lisbon, Apple, Google. They'll be distributed worldwide for however long there's electricity, or I decide to cease this participation. But it's a beautiful self form of therapy. Thank you for being in my life. I hope you will join this weekend. Of course, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And it's on my website. It's on the Facebook page, 10 to 12, 1 to 3, a chance to commune. I'm outlining some of the topics, although there'll be a lot of spontaneity. But specifically, over the last 20 years, I've been evolving a set of what I call self-developmental, self-reflective, meditative writing engagements. I wanted to use the word exercises. It's just something not right about it. Self-developmental writing reflection inquiries that I have found to be super supportive to more nuanced development of consciousness and the understanding of our own emotions and psychologies, our own mindful intelligence, if you will, through the deliberate meditative act of not writing, but, and I'll explain it more tomorrow and throughout the weekend in this global gathering, what it means to employ, at least for me, I can't say for you, what it means to employ consciousness and thought, emotionality, Dhamma, through the act of both speaking as well as communicating with yourself through writing. And it's amazing over the years of having shared these writing reflections with quite a few thousands of people, how powerful, profound they can be in the development of one's own best expression of self, best expression of consciousness. You'll remember yesterday, if you were tuning in, I presented a talk based upon presence and realness, another word for authenticity, but realness and presence, and offered the acronym RBPUN, Rebirthing Bhavana Parami Ubuntification and Nibanification. R for rebirthing, B for Bhavana, P for Parami, U for Ubuntification, and N for Nibanification. Just in short, before I dive into today's talk, because they're very interwoven on choosing the human sacred. Rebirthing is the perpetual shape-shifting, deliberate engagement of consciousness in form, embodied presence, rebirthing it into life. It's another way to look at mindfulness in a more aesthetic or creative, engaging, expanding, evolving, less pedantic, less mechanistic, rather than just being present with the phenomenology of the objects at the senses through the three streams of thought, speech, and action, and just being present. The rebirthing plays within, at least for me, the aesthetics of artistry. Artistry here is deep respect for one's own innate style. The way you walk, talk, move, masturbate, love, dress, undress, wash, shave, clean, answer the call of God and nature, scream at the devil of evil and totalitarianism, wherever it may be seen, whether it's in the White House or in Downing Street or in Canberra, in Beijing, or especially in Naypyidaw with Ming Online, the Burmese satanic cult leader with a military behind him that's gone rogue. Yes, get wild, get rage. Artistry is losing it on the infinite causality of one's own cognitive truth heart soul. What's true for you? And you express it with style, stating the obvious. Rebirthing. B for bhavana, the beautification of consciousness. What are the qualities of consciousness that you ascribe to as the predominant features of that which you wish to color with on the palette of your own presence? Yes, the colors of consciousness. What is your pink? What is your blue? What is your love? What is your patience? Those who are Dhamma literate are those individuals, those boys and girls, men and women, nuns and monks, whoever they may be, animals too, and birds, and who have a high frequency relationship as a doctor or a medical practitioner will to the pulses of the mind and body. One has a feeling, textural relationship to states of consciousness. Bhavana is the beautification of chosen states of mind on the terms of one's own integrity, one's own dignity, and one's own conscience, brought forth with the artistry of your own personal aesthetic. P for parami, states of excellence, whatever they may be to you. What do you aspire to bring to the forefront of your presence every single day? If our inheritance was only the accumulation of states of mind and the lawful integration of whatever those states of mind interrelate to do here, now, and in the future, causality. If our inheritance were only our own chosen states of consciousness, how well would we inhabit our reactions, our conditions, our conditioning, our narratives, to no longer try to do that which defies integrity, conscience, to live in conscience no matter what. I've spoken to so many political prisoners. They can say and they can do, they can torture, they can violate, they can incarcerate, to state the obvious. I'm only repeating things that have been told to me. I'm not a political prisoner. But they cannot imprison your mind. They cannot imprison your dignity. They cannot imprison your conscience. And conscience is a composite of qualities that we have chosen over time to evolve and to develop, that defining, interrelating set of cognitive impulses or intelligences that determine inquiry, poise, reasoning, patience, determination, not just courage, but, moral courage, the willingness to stay true to one's ethics, speaking truth even to oneself. And there's something just so radically beautiful about the word parami. And what are those qualities of mind that you call your chosen states of excellence? And of course, as we go on, we learn the finer aesthetics or the artistry of intermingling states of mind. What does it mean to couple, couple kindness with generosity? What does it mean to couple honor with patience? What does it mean to commingle creativity with intimacy, with sapio-eroticism? The love making through the deliberate engagement of states of inner beingness creatively. What does creativity mean to you? How do you creatively eat? How do you creatively bathe? How do you creatively... The most mundane things done with the eloquence and the elegance of your own inherent Rumi, your own inherent, however you enchant the best of you. The first and last supper, the making love with your dream god, goddess. What does it mean to anoint oneself with the most divine states of mind? So paramis really do, when we use the word excellence, at least the way that I use it, is, and I'm going to go into the sacred here, where is your divinity? Where do you go into higher, more resolute expressions of reverence? And I think reverence is really, the opposite spectrum of pornography. The deliberate recreation of an event to fake you. The pornography of religion, the pornography of politics, the deliberate reenactment of fake. And of course, the added violent forms of porn, war, God worship, the deep fetishism of delusions that sanctify and glorify rape, genocide, and war. We're in that context on this planet. So parami is the opposite of that type of porn. Ubuntification, you. Shared space. Reciprocal mutuality. Heightened states of shared flow. We've all heard the phrase instant intimacy. That deep sense of cellular liking of someone based upon something so radically familiar that it really is the intelligence of chemistry, not just the cliche of chemistry, the way that you've been conditioned to look or to smell or to see or to imagine or to fantasize or to delight, that playful, satirical, comedic, existential cry, sacred love dance of mutual likeness, that reciprocity of intimacy, instant intimacy. It's beautiful to meet that in life. We live to live that if we can, and then to develop it. And so Ubuntu in the Ubuntification is really the deliberate engagement of I and other in dancing in that co-creative, cognitive, often invisible field of shared space as one would with dance or with art or with music. I was saying to a friend just yesterday that most of the Buddha's teaching, as I understand it, for the first 20 years was the study of Ubuntification. The Buddha, a master, so to speak, according to these texts, of the spoken word, of understanding tonality, definition, timing, cadence, a mind that could see the different personality streams within another person's psyche and their own substratum, and playing within the chords of immediacy and intimacy. But more of the priority here, the Ubuntification, is what can I do, say, not say, think, feel, touch, co-create that liberates. My freedom and your freedom are inseparable. That's one statement of Ubuntu. The other is a proactive, co-creative, using our liberty to share and evolve our freedom, the liberation of freedom, Nibantification, the last of the acronym RBPUN, Nibanification. It's a new concept for me. Nibana, the Buddhist Pali word for unconditioned presence. The purity of a freedom beyond direction. Obviously, there is no ultimate east or west, north or south or center or perimeter in infinity. Those are relative terms brought forth by, well, I would say human consciousness. Nibana is the removal of centrality, direction, time, and novelty, and it opens it up to unlimited liberty, to abide in a dynamic confluence of present time presence with all the curvatures and struggles of complexity without any sense of wrongness, reaction, fear, greed, or delusion. It's a very high state of mind. It's said in the Buddhist traditional Abhidhamma, Buddhist psychology, and those of you who are yogis or meditators will know, momentary Nibbana. We've all tasted of those very high fidelity states of deep existential, emotional, sexual flow. Nibbana, the concept, is the speaking to a personal flow that surpasses all forms of psychological, emotional, financial, intimate, sexual, erotic. It's the trans-tantrification of presence. Deep stillness, but unlimited creative powers to blend, to move, to shape, but freely. What does freedom mean to us? Nibbana is the pointing to the absolute absence in the moment of greed, anger, and delusion. And the Nibbanification model is playing in our own artistry within the Ubuntufication of shared space. I cannot be who I am without you, making art out of relationship. Heightened states of parami. Bhavana, the beautification of mind, heart, body, and life, and other, and self, and world, and cosmos. Protecting environments, revering nature, and rebirthing, the sculpting, the artistry of consciousness within form, expanding, evolving, and creating. Those five. RBPUN. And to me, that really speaks to how I have come to determine the Dhamma life, the Dharma life, or finding liberation through living. I find no greater desire in my soul and my heart and my life than to support and to be responsible in protecting and enhancing my own freedom and the responsibility that inherently comes by being earthbound in protecting and supporting and enhancing in those rare moments the freedom of others. Ubuntu. Take away an individual's freedom, and we often suffer the greatest hardships. And that's why totalitarian dictators often coerce and try to control the people through violence, through propaganda, through torture, and eventually through incarceration, deprivation, and all types of other hardships that come with those who are so driven by their evil that they're terrified of the intimacy, the novelty, the creativity, the freedom of another being. The only way that they can respond to that freedom in another person's mind who's dreaming and loving to create through their thought, through their conscience, through their religion, through their telescope of infinity. They don't know what to do with it, so they want to violate it, they want to rape it, they want to murder it, they want to starve it to death, they want to poison it. That's totalitarianism. Mind control, body control. And so we're all activists who are involved in meditation. You may not know it if you're a yogi or a meditator, but you're keeping freedom alive. Now, the last half of this sharing. More personal, in a way. I didn't know what to title it, and it's a little bit of an awkward set of words. Choosing human sacredness. Let me just pause a second here and catch my heartbeat. Okay. Not trying to draw attention to me in my particular condition, but April 11th of this year, I was diagnosed with what's called an ascending, acutely enlarged ascending aorta aneurysm. It's the largest artery out of the heart, and it's about 2.5 times the size that it should be. And it's, according to some of the top surgeons in the world, certainly in America, through a number of different ongoing consultations and deep, semi-invasive medical tests, it's ready to burst. That's what I've been told. And they don't know when. There's no way to predict. But at any second, any minute, any moment. The analogies are a night stalker, a ticking bomb with a short fuse, those types of things. So I've chosen a non-surgical intervention. I spent 3 months contemplating it. I'm not ultimately ruling it out, but I'm not definitely at this point choosing to undergo a hyper complicated, as I've been told, as I've researched and I've talked to people who have survived the surgery. Super complicated. 10 hours, 10 people. It's complicated. And so here I am on the island of Maui, essentially, 2,500 miles away from what I've been told by my surgeons in LA and the hospital here on the island, that there's no chance, if something were to happen, that I would survive a rupture of the aneurysm. So my way of introducing this topic of the sacred, choosing the sacred, I'm really now compelled to really walk my talk. Okay, and it's not an hour by hour thing. I say it's about as momentary as I've ever been, right in there with the intimacies of meditation in the more intensive styles that I've practiced in those more deliberate months and years in Burma and Sri Lanka, and a little bit in the West, not much. So my way of introducing, I'm sitting in a not unlike you. None of us know, except that we know that we're all born into the certainty of mortality. We just don't know when. Very rare does God or the devil or certain information and tuitions tell us when and how and where we'll die. This is a radical rupture. You die from bleeding inside. No oxygen goes to the brain, the lungs, and I'm told, and I've talked to people, I've watched videos of those whom have dealt with the dissection or rupture, that it's a very tormenting form of anguish and death, and the vast majority of people die within 2 minutes to 3 hours, that kind of thing. So every sensation nowadays in my chest is easy to unmindfully imbue with, here comes death. Now, I'm on the island of Maui. Some of you, a couple of live streams back, I was very specific on why I came to the island here. Was essentially, among many, many people I love here who are family over decades, it was to see 3 people, and I've seen them. And part of that process, and I brought it with me, was to talk. to talk with one specific man about dying. And death, and post-death, and preparation for death. Topics that we don't normally enchant as virtue. There's so much cultural energy, right? Imbued in death and dying, illness, disease, strokes, heart attacks, cancer, aneurysms, brain, lung, heart. It's something's gone wrong. It's not right. But that's not the way it works. And you know that, and I know that. We don't place our conscience and our dignity and our love value in the body. We're embodied, yes, okay. But the rebirthing concept to me is about the cognitive shaping of qualities of consciousness and causes for greater luminosity and freedom and enlightening of the Nibantification model, but not necessarily in my face, my teeth, my eyes, my hair, my limbs. My idea of beauty in form, yes, I'm there with you with the aesthetics of form, but I love walking through the most complicated villages and cities of the world, not the five-star glitz of downtown celebrity, right? And so this process of coming more to terms with this one conversation I had, that I'm having more today, and I had well into the night last night, was about death and dying. And I was given, you probably, it's 5 wishes. And I'm filling this out last night. I don't recommend it. I do and I don't. It's challenging. And it's really what's left behind if you are so close to death that you want these 5 wishes respected, that you can't do it yourself. You're in a coma. You have what's been diagnosed because of what happened as severe brain damage. Do you want life support to be taken from you if it was given? Do you want life support to be given to you if it's possible to be given? If you're in a coma and you can't talk for yourself, who is that person in your life that you really want to make decisions when you can't? I use the word sacred. It's emotional, but it's not painful emotional. But the human sacred, I use the word human sacred. These are things like, wow, Alan, never thought that you'd be talking this way, thinking that way. I was going to have a glass of wine last night, which I did, with a little CBD, and I was hanging, I put some candles on, and I pulled this out, and I started to write it, and it was like, God, I could barely read it, much less fill in the blanks, except, do you want someone to put liquid on your lips if you're unable to move? Do you want someone to hold your hand when you're unable to move? Where do you want your body and your remains placed? Your 5 wishes. There's so many things in here that are so inherently portalized into the sacred, the human sacred. It reminds me of all those autopsies that I chose to witness and contemplate as a monk. All those hours when in India, in Benares, or in Calcutta at the Burning Ghats, in Lanka, Thailand, Burma, medical practitioners opening bodies to let you look at the beneath the epidermis realities of the flow of this biological extraordinary intelligence. But inherently, no matter what we do, how deeply we breathe the oxygen of eternity, the body, the biology, and in the cognition of consciousness, the programming of the interrelatedness of brain, lung, body, arteries are all inherently programmed on anicca, vata sankhara. Change is inherent on all forms, all levels. You can't place any trust ultimately in these temporary conditions, in this foam castle of sand that's empty of inherent reality. I don't long for immortality. I long for RBPUN, rebirthing, bhavana, parami, Ubuntification, Nibanification, the liberation of freedom, the aesthetics of that. And I was thinking last night, I'm thinking today about the sacred. Who are these people that I want near me when I die? When will I die? When will you die? What are your wishes? And it comes back to, as I close today, because I want to save a lot of psychic space and energy for the upcoming global gathering starting tomorrow at 10 a.m. I really do hope you can join and tune your friends in and invite them to come. And there's something so joyful about knowing that you're not alone. I have a few friends. I have a lot of people that I know. And I'm meeting so many beautiful souls here online around the world that I never would have met. And from my heart to yours, thank you for staying close to me, especially during this process. And, you know, I love it. I love waking up and seeing who you are, what you've said, what you've watched, how you've commented, doing the very best I can to keep the poetic, the aesthetic, the Dharma transformational model of shared space across time and the waves of distance and continents I've never been to. Thank you from my heart for being in my heart and in my life. But the sacred here. And I'll close here with where I started the day in meditation. Because I woke up a little bit vulnerable, alone in the bed. I could see the first rays of the sun over our orb, Earth, spinning. In breath, out breath. I came here to the temple, my cushion here where I sit in meditation, and sat in a posture that I've sat in for decades. A beautiful, simple, elegant posture to inhabit. May I encourage you from all of my being. Develop a sitting meditation engagement, not a practice, an engagement. A chance to practice your 5 wishes in dynamic, intimate action. Come to terms more and more with the fidelity of the human sacred. Let the breath simply breathe on its own. And just in breath, out breath, neither wish to live, nor fear dying. And beneath those narratives, all around those narratives, we live in a cognitive, it could be only consciousness in this existence everywhere, congealed in different forms and configurations, from animals to humans, contoured by cognitive conditions from an infinite background that shape us to be so utterly unique. And look at the millions of different species and birds and animals and fish and nature, and imagine, just imagine for a moment, the different dimensions and forms that are more dense than animals, that are more luminous than human. It defies imagination what consciousness can do to congeal or to release. We're in this cognitive infinity. And in the meditation for me, I find no greater enactment, if you will, of the human sacred on an experiential level. Yes, 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 divinely connected. I drove from here down to Whole Foods in Kahului. I came back. I felt like I was a metallic bullet driven by the fossil fuel industry and my participation in planetary murder. A necessary evil. If I really had compassion in my heart, would I be driving and flying and electrifying the death of the future? What a weird circumstance, I basically said. So I came here this morning again to reimagine the sacred, the human sacred, sitting, in-breath, out-breath. And, you know, I rarely use the word yearning or craving. I so want to step away from the world. I really don't want to fly and drive. I've got a few minutes, a few seconds, a few months, perhaps 8, 9 months, where I've made a vow, stay alive. Do all that you can to give over to the sacred curative of overcoming fear. You may not cure your aneurysm, but challenge your fear. Challenge the deepest recesses of attachment that defy the ultimate sacred. Not the immortal, but you are not your body. You are not your mind. You are not any of these things except a causal relatedness of deeply connected, beautiful states of mind. The Buddha was said to have said, when asked about enlightenment, he said, there is suffering, but there is no one who suffers. There is no intrinsic self within the package of eternity that is the constant referential subject of a changing world. What a brilliant experiential pointing. Non-centrality, anatta. Anatta vata sankara upadavaya damino upatichuva nirujanti te samvupasamo sukho. Those among you, women and men, nuns and monks, all dimensions, here, there, everywhere, who understand the non-centrality to the complex of causality, live in the highest happiness. Take the death, the aging, the disease out of the process by understanding and knowing more realistically true nature. Sacred to me is synonymous with true nature. Sitting, feeling, having the courage to see something truthfully. Yes, my name is Alan Clements, born on such and such a date, doing such and such a such, having a global intimate gathering starting tomorrow, who's been diagnosed with an enlarged aortic aneurysm, but you've been diagnosed, as I have, with what? Birth as a human on a temporary planet, in a solar system, in a galaxy, in a dimension of existence that is built upon infinite conditions of causality without centrality. And we are these microcosms, these incredibly brilliant, novel creations of consciousness that give the illusion of someone experiencing something. But when I was feeling into my meditation today, I could not identify with I as ill, diseased, or being diagnosed with a fatal illness. It was a thought. It's a condition. It may be a true condition on a relative level, but I don't want to live on a relative level alone. Yes, deep simplicity. Another way to look at sacredness. Deep, deep reverential simplicity. Do you ever allow yourself, come into the end here, really allow yourself, really support yourself in becoming really quiet? That's what I'm yearning for now. Is in that quietude, it isn't silence. It's the luminosity of structures that are so much more discernible and refined, if you will, with regard to what I term as the beautification of consciousness. You hear it, you feel it, you have more sensitivity to it. So as I end today, thank you for my heart, these spontaneous sharings. I so enjoy them. I wake up early, meditate, walk, sing, chant, write, create, nibble, meditate some more. And may I invite you in your meditation, not necessarily to cultivate mindfulness alone. You can't say enough about the power of that level of discernible, pure knowing. It's such a guardian of one's own beauty, one's own conscience and dignity, and the enhancer of all things beautiful. But as I sat this morning, which we'll do over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, an evolving set of pointings. I wanted to use the word instructions, but pointings in meditation. I only want to reveal how I meditate, not teach meditation. I don't believe in teaching. But sitting and occupying the naturalness of the breathing without coercion or trying to control the breath, and sitting upright, sitting in a posture that reflects one's dignity. Of course, we can do this all throughout the day. Shoulders back, relax, neck up, taking the stress out of what we do, relaxing the abdomen, feeling our heels and feet on the earth, relaxing our shoulders, keeping them slightly back, staying in deep sacred poise within our bodies. And within that, I just situated my awareness into the multiplicities of different of intelligences in the mind and in the body. The intelligence of the biology, the intelligence of consciousness, the sitting down on the planet, the earth itself, the intelligence of the ecosystem that we're all embedded in, the intelligences inherent in oxygen, in water, in heat, in all the various ways in which we find ourselves keeping ourselves separate from the phenomenology of context. I am inseparably engaged in the cognitive, psychological, material, existential ecosystems of shared being. I'm pointing here to the last word with the sacred is the remarkable trust in the most beautiful quality that you could determine that defines your identity. What is that? For me, it is abiding in conscience. And in that, all the beautiful artistries of mindfulness and courage and art and love and compassion root back into deep, deep knowing of the rightness of something, the truth of something, living in truth and in conscience, right? And the Buddha was said to have said, closing, yes, there is suffering, but no one at the core of being. There is no separate self. There are deeds that we do, but there's no ultimate doer of those deeds. In this radical line that I've read over and over and feel into, there is enlightenment, there is Nibana, but there is no one who's enlightened. Where does the fire go when the conditions for that fire no longer can arise? It doesn't go into a dark hole of non-existence. The conditions for greed, anger, and delusion, when extinguished, the Buddha was said to have said, when there's Nibana or extinction, suffering ceases. And that is what brought me into the Dhamma life. That the ceasing of suffering is what I deeply regard. My first deep Dhamma book, written by Ram Dass, Be Here Now. All of us were turned into radical yogis, often as a result of what was found in those brilliant pages. What I took from them, there was the Buddha's teaching was in there, the Four Noble Truths. And the ultimate essence of that truth was the ceasing of self-generated suffering. Take the death out of life. Take the disease out of life. Take the aging out of life. Take the fear out of life. Take the delusion out of life. Isn't that the journey of embodying the human sacred? And within that, yes, delight, fantasize, eroticize, play. But for me, the core of this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, will be how to explore, how to experientially appreciate in our own lives how we can determine the overcoming of self-generated dukkha, or self-generated suffering, and the elevation of the good, the true, and the beautiful. So from my heart to yours, thank you for being in my life. Tomorrow we'll begin at 10 to 12, and from 1 until 3. And then the same on Saturday, the same on Sunday. If you come to my Facebook page, I use my personal Facebook page, and if you like it or follow it, you'll be alerted to each of these 6 sessions when they begin. May I invite you to bring your friends in and join and to participate, save the time, and come along with us, with the people here in this sacred temple on this very rare journey of what I would call global awakening in a time of great crisis. Have a great day. See you tomorrow. Thank you.